Okay, so you've sent us a whole bunch of articles about cybersecurity. You're really interested in incident response plans and security playbooks, huh? You're not messing around.
It's great to see you thinking ahead, not just reacting after something happens. That's where a lot of people, they miss the
Oh,
boat.
yeah. Hoping for the best is not a strategy,
Yeah.
especially in cybersecurity. Like they say, hope for the best, prepare for, well, you know the rest. And that preparation, that's where your incident response plan comes in.
Right. And having that plan, that's what makes all the difference.
Big time. One of the articles, 6 Steps to Making an Incident Response Plan, really hit home for me. It says straight up, it's not if, but when a data breach will happen.
Mhm.
So, how do we deal with that?
Exactly. And the thing is, being caught off guard, that's a risk you really don't want to take. It can cost you, not just financially, but your reputation can take a hit too. And that same article, it makes it clear. A playbook, it's not just some dusty binder on a shelf. It's about making those really important security decisions and making them fast when it really matters.
It's like having, I don't know, a game plan for when things go sideways, because let's be real, they sometimes do.
All the time.
There's another article here. Does your SOC have a security playbook? It does a deep dive explaining how a playbook can help analysts figure out, how bad is this problem? Who's affected? It's about connecting the dots, right?
Absolutely. You've got to know what you're dealing with. How big is this breach? And who's been impacted? Those are the million-dollar questions, and a good playbook helps you answer them. That's how you start to build a solid response.
It's about cutting through all that noise and focusing on what really matters.
Hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the structure of these playbooks?
6 steps to making an incident response plan. That one lays it out really well. It all starts with knowing what you need to protect, your most critical assets. What data does your company have that you absolutely positively can't afford to lose?
So it's about prioritizing, right? Not all data is created equal.
You got it. And once you know what's most important, then you can start thinking about the risks. It's like detective work. What are the things that could actually harm your business?
And that's where things can get really interesting, because those risks, they can be totally different depending on what your company does, what industry you're in.
For sure. The article even gives you some examples to think about. External drives, people quitting and taking information, email security, social media scams, even someone just walking in and stealing stuff. You got to think about all of it.
Wow, this has already given me a lot to think about, and we haven't even gotten to the actual response part yet.
That's where step 3 comes in. This is where you take all that information about risks and start creating a plan to deal with them.
So you're not just winging it when a breach happens.
No way. You need to have a process in place. And this article, it breaks down the key things that process needs to cover. Figuring out what happened and stopping it from getting worse, keeping really good records of everything, having a plan for communicating with everyone involved, and knowing how you're going to defend yourself. And then, maybe the most important thing,
What's that?
training your people.
Ah, right, because the best plan in the world won't help if no one knows how to use it. That makes sense. Now, the article also mentions having a dedicated team for responding to incidents. It's like assembling, I don't know, your A-team for cybersecurity.
That's a good way to put it. And that team, it needs the right people, each with a specific role to play. Your lead investigator, the IT expert, someone to handle communications, someone to keep track of all the details and timelines, maybe even someone from HR and the legal team. You need all hands on deck.
Like a well-coordinated team, everyone's got their part.
Exactly. But just like with anything important, you need buy-in from the top.
6 steps to making an incident response plan. They really emphasize that point, don't they?
They do, and for good reason. If you want the resources and support to make your plan work, you've got to convince the people holding the purse strings.
It's about showing them the value, right?
Exactly. You got to make a strong case for why investing in this is good for the whole company, not just the IT department. And the best way to do that is to focus on how much damage control a good plan can do.
Damage control. Okay. And that brings us back to training, right? That's another thing that 6 steps to making an incident response plan really hammers home.
Absolutely. Training is crucial. It's like running drills to make sure everyone...
So it's taking care of all that tedious stuff that takes forever, and the human analysts can focus on the big picture stuff?
Exactly. Let the machines do the boring work. Does your SOC have a security playbook? Also talks about how important it is for playbooks to be adaptable. They can't be set in stone.
Makes sense.
Because the world of cyber threats, it's constantly changing. What works today might be totally useless tomorrow. It's it's that saying, trying to hit a moving target.
Yeah, that's cybersecurity in a nutshell. So how do you stay ahead of the game?
Constant review. You have to keep testing and refining your playbook. That's the only way to stay ahead of the curve.
It's a never-ending process.
Pretty much.
Okay, so let's talk about how this all plays out in real life. Does your SOC have a security playbook? Paints this picture. An endpoint gets infected, credentials are stolen. Like, what happens next?
That's when you're really glad you have a playbook.
Right, because you don't want to be scrambling when every second counts.
Absolutely. Having a clear plan for those first few hours, it's crucial. It can mean the difference between containing the damage and, total disaster. And there's another thing. O3.1, starting an SOC shift, current incidents and follow-up web.compass.lighthouselabs.ca.pdf, it brings up standard operating procedures.
SOPs, right? I've heard of
Right, SOPs. So you've got your big picture incident response plan. And then within that plan, you need these SOPs, these detailed instructions for specific types of incidents.
So it's like the SOPs are the step-by-step guides within the overall plan.
Exactly. Like standard operating procedures, SOPs, definition and overview. It defines them as like the instructions for security practitioners to follow a specific path to get something done. They're super important because they make sure everyone on the team is on the same page, following the same procedures.
It's about consistency and minimizing errors.
Exactly. And it makes everything more efficient.
Okay, so we've got the playbook, we've got SOPs, we've got our team trained up.
Right.
What else do we need to think about?
Remember, we were talking about adaptability a minute ago. Yeah.
That's an ongoing thing. Does your SOC have a security playbook?
All right.
Really stresses that you got to keep evaluating what you're doing, look for ways to improve,
So it's like after every incident, after every drill, you ask yourselves, did that work? What could we do better next time?
Exactly. Did our playbook hold up?
Yeah.
And if you come across something your playbook didn't cover, well, that's a learning opportunity.
A chance to make it even better.
Exactly. And this is where that human element really comes into play. You can have all the technology in the world, but it's the people who make it all work.
That human touch.
Exactly. We've been talking a lot about known threats, but does your SOC have a security playbook? This makes you think about something else, too. What about the threats you don't even see coming? The unknown unknowns.
The stuff you haven't even imagined yet. That's a little scary, honestly.
It is, and that's the tricky part of cybersecurity. But the basic principles, they still apply. Does your SOC have a security playbook? Suggests proactive threat hunting. So instead of just waiting for something bad to happen, you're actively out there looking for vulnerabilities.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're trying to find those weak points before someone else does. And as you uncover those, you can start building those scenarios into your playbooks, even if you haven't actually seen those threats in action yet.
So you're not just reacting, you're anticipating.
Yeah.
Trying to stay one step ahead.
That's the goal. That proactive mindset, that's what can really make a difference. Oh, and one more thing, and this came up when we were talking about the SOPs earlier. We need to touch on documentation. Really good documentation.
Documenting everything. That sounds like a ton of paperwork.
It can be, yeah. But it's super important for a couple of reasons. First, it makes sure that everyone on your team is following the same procedures. Like, no matter what, we're all doing it this way, the right way. That helps avoid confusion and mistakes. And the second thing is it creates this record of what happened if a breach happens.
Ah, so you can go back and see what worked and what didn't.
Exactly. And if you end up in some kind of legal situation, you've got those records.
It's like having a paper trail for your cybersecurity.
Exactly. So it's not just about having a playbook. It's about having a playbook that's well documented and organized and easy for everyone on the team to find what they need.
So it's like a central hub for all your cybersecurity knowledge.
Exactly.
Makes sense. And as you keep testing and updating your playbooks, those documents need to be updated too.
Exactly. Keep everything current. Before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something that's come up a few times already, that human element. We can't forget about the people involved in all of this.
We talked about it with training, yeah, but sounds like there's more to it than that.
Yeah, there is. Even with, like, the most amazing playbooks, the best automation, you can't forget about the human factor. It's the analysts, the people, who are at the heart of it all.
Yeah, because they're the ones who have to make the judgment calls, ultimately.
Exactly. They bring their expertise, their gut feelings, their ability to, like, think on their feet and adjust to new situations. You can't program that into a machine.
So it's about finding that balance, that sweet spot between human intelligence and what technology can do.
Exactly. That's how you achieve real excellence in cybersecurity.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. I feel like we've gone from A to Z on incident response planning, playbooks, SOPs, all of it. Oh, and we talked about automation and that human element. You've
It-
given me a lot to think about.
It's been a good
It
conversation.
really has. So as our listener is, absorbing all of this, let me leave them with something to chew on. How can you take these playbook principles and apply them beyond cybersecurity, in other areas of work or even your personal life?
That's a great question. A lot to unpack there.
It is. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.